This video is for newcomers to photography, or maybe people who are having a difficult time composing their shots. It really boils down to, I only use a few ways to compose images. I'm breaking things up into sections. I'm using my golden ratio. Bear with me, that sounds really stupid, but bear with me. And I'm basically using negative space. So if somebody's looking this way, I have more negative space over here. If there's an object, maybe I have the scene broken down so there's more negative space to, one side. That's kind of it. There's maybe a couple other things, but that's kind of it. There are many of you who subscribe to the channel who are very accomplished photographers. You know what you're doing. But I have a feeling there are some that are just starting out. And for me, the most important thing when it comes to photography is composition. The lighting might suck, the environment might blow, but the one thing that I really concentrate on the most is composition. And I only really think about a few things. Well, mostly a few things. So I want to talk a little bit about what goes on behind the lens for me. So these shots are how I break something into sections in half. One is with a sort of stone signage at the shrine and, sort of looking past it into the shrine. And the other is a lantern that is in front of a restaurant. I'm finding something in the background that makes it a little bit more important as well, but you can see how these work really well when I just break it in half. These shots are pretty basic. I've got my wife centered in there. I'm just breaking it up into sections. I've got the wall on one side, her in the middle, the wall on the other. I could have moved one way, sort of make it asymmetrical, but I decided to keep her in the middle. And there is a lady sort of sweeping and a construction worker coming around out of this building that's being worked on. I've got this white cover for the building. I've got them in the middle, and I've sort of got this brick wall off to the side. It's very on purpose. And a lady coming out of the station, showing a dude in the background on his phone, once again, breaking it up into sections. So here are some examples of how I'm using the sort of negative space off to one side. I'm still breaking it up into sections, but I'm more thinking about sort of this empty area, so to speak. And this gentleman is looking at theater posters, and these ladies are at the temple. They're reading their fortune. And this worker is off to the side from this truck. You can see things happening through the glass. And this gentleman at Shinjuku Station, I got the reflection. There's a lot of other things happening in these photos, but my main thought was to have this broken up so that there's negative space off to the side. And this fella at the gate at a school, I'm showing the scene in that way. And I think this is a homeless person who was sitting at the top of the stairs. She's looking down, and I want to show the stairs going down. I'm using that negative space to help tell my story, right? And this scene's cool. I just really feel like having this lady off to the side and the window advertisement is just kind of like this cool use of space. And here are some sake bottles in a window. I'm using the negative space, so where the sort of the flap might open there with the wood flap there, sort of like a window door. And this lady pushing her cart. Once again, where is she going? I'm using that negative space to sort of project like she's on her way somewhere. There's absolutely nothing in front of her. I thought it was cool. Dude in his kayak, I don't know, I sort of broke it down to show the reflections. There's just something interesting about those reflections that made it sort of break up. Once again, in that section, I'm using like 1/3 for the pillar and 2/3 for the water. Anyway, so when I talk about this golden ratio, it's nothing that I really see. It's just something that I've pictured in my mind sometimes when I'm looking at a scene. For this one in particular, I wanted to wait for somebody to walk in this area, and the security guard walked down the steps, and I could have shot him as he's holding the rail, but I waited till he got to the bottom so that I'm also using these sort of leading lines going to him. But it all basically boils down to this golden ratio. I actually didn't mention the use of leading lines. And I'm not talking about lines that just kind of go into oblivion. I've seen many photos of people saying, oh, check out my leading lines, but they're actually not leading to anything. So what I like to have is maybe a focal point, a subject matter, at the end of all these lines. And these two photos really represent what that means to me. Here's another. Here are another couple shots of breaking that scene up very specifically. I've got just a little bit of this gentleman walking out of the subway at the top and the stairs down below him. And on this one, I've got the elevator going up and my buddy Andy at the end taking a shot, this lady going up, and this huge ceiling. This is just breaking it up. It's like 2/3 at the top and 1/3 at the bottom, almost. I'm also thinking about what's happening on the street as far as like movement and what are people doing and can I follow them? And I was actually up in a camera store looking down onto an intersection and saw these parking police crossing the intersection. So I used the sidewalk. I broke this up into a couple sections. 2/3 at the top, 1/3 at the bottom. I went downstairs to try to capture whatever it is they were doing. When I got down, they were talking to each other at the end of this intersection. So I caught them and they sort of like are looking one way and I have negative space on the other. And this last photo, I've got the end of the truck and them. They're doing their job. It's sort of like setting up the scene as well. And the last thing, I actually didn't mention this either, but the last thing is this sort of context. What is happening in your surrounding areas? For instance, I shot this fella walking across this bridge, okay? If I were to zoom in on him, it's a cool photo. You know, old dude walking. I mean, why not, right? But if I zoom out, I can say this guy is in a lot of pain because he's walked all this way. And the name of this photo is The Long Journey Home. So there's something to be told there, right? And this next shot, if I zoomed into the three people having fun and taking their selfie, would be not very interesting. But if I move back, I can see that maybe they're taking a shot of them in front of this building. And the building's cool too. The mural is super awesome. And this last shot was taken a really long time ago. This massive fire in San Diego. If I were to have zoomed in on that statue, it would have looked really interesting. But since I shot more of the scene, I'm telling everyone that this is a fire that demolished the whole area and people really suffered here. And one of the things that survived was this statue. Really kind of amazing to me. Okay, so it boils down to this. I'm breaking the scene up into sections. I'm using my golden ratio. And what was the other one? Oh yeah, negative space. I'm using, once again, it's being broken up into sections, but I'm using negative space to sort of, show that somebody's going this way, somebody's talking that way, somebody's looking that way. I think it's pretty cool that Tokyo offers all this and I can get out and about. And I'm actually stoked that you can see Tokyo through my lens. And I hope you had a good time. And if you are new to photography, I hope that these suggestions will help you out, will help you craft a cool image. And anyway, all right, so there it is. Thanks a lot for dropping by.